Hello, friends. My name is RD, and welcome back to my channel, Dhode Our Vision English. I hope you all are doing great. Today, I'm going to explain a beautiful Turkish movie called Delibal, which was released in 2015. The film stars Cagatay Ulusoy as the male lead Barış, and the stunning Leyla Lydia as the female lead Füsun. It has received a 6.8 out of 10 rating on IMDb, but trust me, the story is much more emotional than the numbers suggest. It's a deeply heart-touching story, one that goes beyond a typical love tale. Our female lead is a headstrong girl who never had time for love. She was always focused on her studies, and her goal was to get a scholarship. On the other hand, our male lead is a cheerful genius, an outstanding student full of life and creativity. This story is also about love at first sight and how that one moment changes everything. So without wasting any further time, let's start our movie. At the opening scene, we see Barış standing silently on a cliff, holding a white daisy flower in his hand, with a calm expression on his face. Meanwhile, his wife Füsun is returning home from a business trip. As she enters the house, she finds it completely messed up by their cat. She tries to contact Barış, but he's unreachable. Worried, she leaves him a voice note. "I'm arranging a wonderful dinner for us, so come back soon." She waits for him all night, but he doesn't return. The next morning, she receives a call from the police. She rushes to the cliff, the same place we saw Barış earlier, and the police inform her that her husband might have had an accident the previous night, or perhaps he came there with the intention to end his life. They mention the possibility that he might have left behind a note. Hearing this, Füsun breaks down and lashes out at the police, insisting, "We are a happy couple. We're deeply in love. There's absolutely no reason for him to do something like this, so stop talking nonsense." Back at home, she tells everyone, if Barış ever thought about ending his life, he would have definitely left a note. But there's nothing. He's probably just bored or playing a prank. He'll be back. And from here, the story takes us back in time, to when Barış and Füsun met for the first time. It was at a restaurant. Barış was sitting with his friends when he noticed Füsun working there. The moment he saw her, it was love at first sight. With just one glance, Barış was completely captivated by the girl in front of him. His heart started racing, and he couldn't even hear his friends calling out to him. His friend looked at him in confusion, as Barış, almost unknowingly, began walking toward the girl. Just then, Füsun stopped him, thinking he was looking for the restroom, and kindly pointed him in the right direction. Even after returning to his table, Barış couldn't take his eyes off her. He kept thinking about how to strike up a conversation. Suddenly, Füsun walked over and sat at their table, looking flustered. Everyone was surprised by her sudden action, and then an older man approached, sternly asking why she was there. It turned out the man was Füsun's father. Füsun was secretly working part-time at the restaurant to support her family and had unexpectedly run into her father. Sensing the tension and realizing she was about to get caught, Barış quickly stepped in. He greeted her father and confidently lied, saying, "Oh, we're all here for a class reunion." This clever move saved Füsun from getting into trouble. Although she didn't get the chance to thank him, her father took her away immediately. As she left, Barış's eyes lit up with happiness. Even that brief interaction was enough to make his day. Barış couldn't stop thinking about Füsun. Just thinking about their brief meeting filled him with a sense of joy he hadn't felt in a long time. It was like she had lit a spark inside him, turning the ordinary world into something magical. Even the sounds of the city, the traffic, the chatter, the distant drums, felt like part of a love song playing just for him. He eagerly looked forward to seeing her again. So he returned to the cafe, but Füsun was nowhere to be found. After some persistent questioning, a waiter finally told him that Füsun had resigned. The only clue he had was that she was now attending a university near the station. Without wasting a moment, Barış rushed to the school, but even after searching every corner of the campus, he couldn't find her. He tried getting help from the Student Services Center, but the staff, despite his polite requests, refused to give out any information. With no other option, Barış began asking students around the campus. Unfortunately, no one seemed to know her. Finding one girl in such a massive university felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. Still, he didn't give up. He even bought a telescope and climbed to the rooftop, hoping to spot her from above. He searched for several days, but never found her. Just when he was about to give up and leave, fate played its hand. At a corner of the corridor, he unknowingly brushed past Füsun. And not long after, by sheer coincidence, they ended up sitting in the same bus. Füsun recognized him immediately and greeted him warmly. This time, Barış didn't get nervous like before. Instead, he spoke freely and confidently. Seeing the same cheerful and charming Barış lifted Füsun's mood, and she couldn't help but smile. They were having a wonderful conversation when suddenly Füsun received an unexpected phone call. Her expression quickly changed. She looked worried. It turned out she needed an important book for her thesis. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find it anywhere. Their sweet moment was cut short. Soon, Füsun reached her stop and got off. Barış returned home, bursting with joy. In his excitement, he snatched the drink-filled glass from his father, pulled out a bottle of good wine he had been saving in the fridge, and announced with a glowing smile, "I'm in love." Hearing this, his parents were overjoyed. Their son had found love, and they welcomed it with warmth and happiness. The next morning, Barış went back to the university, hoping to ask Füsun out for a coffee. But Füsun was overwhelmed, buried in the pressure of her graduation thesis, and had no time to talk. It wasn't until Barış took out the rare book Füsun had been desperately searching for that she finally paused. He thought this thoughtful gesture would be enough to spark something between them. But just as he was about to speak, Füsun's friend called her away, and she had to leave. Though he didn't get the chance to ask out the girl of his dreams, Barış wasn't discouraged. In fact, he was as happy as a child with a giant treat, his heart full of hope. In the days that followed, Barış would quietly scroll through Füsun's social media just to see her updates. From her posts, he realized she was still extremely busy, so he decided to do something sweet. He bought her coffee, hoping it would bring them closer. However, things didn't go as smoothly as he imagined. Füsun had already sensed his feelings through his thoughtful actions. One day, she gently but firmly told him, "I'm sorry, but there's no future for us. It's impossible." Her serious and sincere expression left no room for confusion. Understanding the moment, Barış quietly stood up and walked away, respecting her honesty. But what Barış didn't know was the burden Füsun was silently carrying. She came from a low-income family. Her mother had been bedridden for years due to illness. Her sister had fallen into deep depression after being betrayed by someone she trusted. Their father, with nowhere else to turn, had pinned all his hopes on Füsun, the only one left who could carry the family forward. Füsun had always been focused on one goal: to achieve excellent grades and get into a prestigious higher degree program. For her, education was not just a dream, it was a responsibility. She hoped that, with a good job in the future, she could help support her family, especially her ailing mother. Guided by her father's words and driven by the weight of her family's expectations, Füsun remained disciplined and dedicated. As graduation approached, she made it clear to herself, romance had no place in her tightly planned life. But Barış wasn't ready to give up. The very next day, he went directly to Füsun's classroom. Irritated and embarrassed, she called him outside and sternly told him not to disturb her again. To her, his romantic pursuits seemed childish and out of place. She couldn't afford distractions. As Barış stood there, unsure of how to respond, Füsun's classmate Haydar walked up and revealed something surprising. Barış's presence wasn't a coincidence. In fact, Barış wasn't just a drummer at a bar. He was a brilliant senior in the architecture department and one of the key designers of their university's teaching building. He was intelligent, talented, and far more accomplished than Füsun had imagined. It wasn't until he had already walked away that Füsun realized how harshly she had treated him. Later, Barış saw Füsun again at school. For a moment, he thought she was running toward him, but instead, she warmly embraced another man. Confused and hurt, Barış followed them and saw them talking closely in the classroom. His heart sank, assuming the worst. Just then, Füsun turned around and spotted him. Barış quickly got up to leave, but she chased after him, confused by his reaction. Frustrated, he blurted out, "If you already have a boyfriend, you could have just told me the truth instead of hiding behind excuses." Füsun was stunned. Before she could respond, the man beside her smiled and calmly said, "I'm gay." Barish's mood shifted instantly. Overjoyed, he grinned and said, "Being gay is great." In his excitement, he even let his admiration for Füsun slip out in front of everyone. The moment became quietly awkward, a mix of confusion, surprise, and budding emotion. Barış, looking like a guilty schoolboy who had just blurted out a secret, turned to face Füsun again, ready to express his heartfelt confession. Füsun's firm attitude finally began to soften. Seeing Barış on the verge of tears, she gently reached out her hand to comfort him. In that moment, faced with the overwhelming wave of sincere love, her walls crumbled. Even the nearby light bulb seemed to shimmer with emotion, as if the entire world had been moved by Barış's honesty. From there, their love began to blossom. Barış took Füsun to his workplace, proudly introducing her to everyone. He went out of his way to make her smile, picking fruits from trees for her to taste, making silly jokes, and even singing love songs just for her. Sitting in the audience, Füsun always had a bright, genuine smile on her face, a reflection of the joy blooming in her heart. In time, he brought Füsun home to meet his family. His parents were impressed and full of praise for the girl their son had chosen. Everything seemed to be falling into place. On Füsun's birthday, Barış gathered all their friends and planned an incredibly romantic celebration, putting his whole heart into making it unforgettable. Their relationship grew sweeter with every passing day, like a beautiful dream where nothing could go wrong. But life, of course, had its own plans. They were still students, and slowly, the responsibilities they had ignored began to catch up with them. Füsun, who had always been punctual and obedient, had recently started staying out late. One night, she came home drunk. Her father, furious and disappointed, lashed out at the entire family. He couldn't understand what had happened to his once disciplined daughter. Füsun's emotional response only deepened his disappointment. Meanwhile, Barış also faced trouble of his own. He had been so caught up in love that he forgot about a major architecture project assigned by his university. His mentor was furious, demanding that Barış complete all the pending work within 3 days. No excuses. At the same time, Füsun was on the verge of missing a critical deadline. She had to complete a detailed survey with hundreds of entries, or she'd lose the chance to apply for the scholarship she had worked for her entire life. Exhausted, anxious, and desperate, Füsun broke down in tears. She begged Barış for help. But with only 3 days left and both of them drowning in pressure, the situation seemed impossible. Without the scholarship, she didn't know how she would ever face her father again. Knowing there was still time, Barış reassured Füsun not to worry. Over the next few days, they passionately knocked on every door in the neighborhood, and thanks to Barış's excellent social skills, the hundreds of surveys quickly dwindled. In just 2 days, they completed the task for the first time. During this time, Füsun realized Barış was someone she could trust with her life. As she excitedly expressed her gratitude, she noticed a tattoo on Barış's hand, which caught her interest. The two of them decided to go to a tattoo shop to get matching couple tattoos. However, when the tattoo needle slipped, Füsun cried out in pain. Barış, unable to see her suffer, wanted to stop the process, but Füsun insisted on completing it no matter what. Still, Barış couldn't bear it and walked outside, only to still hear her faint screams. Unable to take it any longer, he pulled her out of the tattoo shop. Even the slightest pain Füsun felt was magnified in Barış's heart. However, this deep love nearly ruined their relationship. Shortly after, Barış graduated successfully, and in celebration, a friend smeared cake on his face. At that moment, a mentor advised Füsun not to let love affect her future career. It was then she realized she had nearly prevented Barış from graduating. That night, deeply moved, the two confessed their love and believed life would only get better from there. The next day, wanting Füsun to get more sleep, Barış turned off his phone alarm, unknowingly missing the ferry back to school. If she didn't make it to her interview on time, she would lose her scholarship opportunity. This incident led to their first argument. Füsun had been striving for a scholarship from day one, and with the pressure from her father, she couldn't afford any mistakes. Barış didn't understand the weight of this burden, and in anger, Füsun said many hurtful things. Her words deeply hurt Barış, stabbing into his heart like a knife. From that moment, he fell into a deep emotional pain, locking himself in his room and furiously playing music to vent. He ignored Füsun's calls. Meanwhile, he wasn't angry because of the argument, but blamed himself for turning off the alarm and failing to make the woman he loved happy. Late at night, hearing Barış's chaotic drumming, his mother considered checking on him but hesitated, and instead asked her husband to intervene. However, his father advised against getting too involved. When overwhelmed, Barış began frequenting a bar. One day, he saw a girl being harassed by thugs and was reminded of Füsun, prompting him to defend the girl by punching one of the thugs. The thug retaliated by calling for backup, but the bar owner, not wanting trouble, kindly called a cab for Barış and urged him to leave quickly before things escalated. However, Barış deliberately acted otherwise. He got into the car but soon stopped and picked a fight with the thugs. Outnumbered, he was kicked hard in the head, and this heavy blow led to Barış experiencing chaotic symptoms, becoming both emotionally agitated and eerily calm. These were signs of an impending depressive episode. People with bipolar disorder often have heightened emotions, racing thoughts, and exaggerated behaviors. Most importantly, the illness cannot be completely cured. After learning about his condition, Barış shut himself in his room all day. Ever since leaving Füsun, he had been in a constant slump. Noticing that something was wrong, his mother suggested bringing Füsun over to help him heal together, but his father insisted they shouldn't interfere too much. Meanwhile, Füsun was also tormented. She regretted not considering Barış's feelings and simply venting her own anger. Despite all her learning and mastering various skills, she realized she knew nothing about handling relationships. Seeing her daughter suffer, Füsun's mother couldn't bear it and encouraged her to follow her heart and do whatever it took to earn Barış's forgiveness. The next morning, Füsun went alone to the tattoo parlor and bravely completed the couple's tattoo design they had once started. Then, gathering all her courage, she went to find Barış. But just as she got into the car, she unexpectedly received the heartbreaking news of her mother's death. Her mother's passing shattered her, and in that moment, all she wanted was for Barış to be by her side. Seeing Füsun in such pain, her friends couldn't bear it and reached out to Barış, informing him of the tragedy. Unable to let Füsun face it alone, Barış rushed to her side as soon as he heard the news. In a deeply emotional embrace, they vowed never to part again, no matter what happened in the future. Even though Barış was tormented by bipolar disorder, he chose to hide his illness so as not to worry Füsun, deciding instead to protect her as best he could. Day by day, he stood by her side, and with a smile, he attended her graduation ceremony, offering his best wishes. Then, sealing the moment with a deep and passionate kiss, their relationship grew even stronger. That very day, Barış took Füsun to their favorite park, placed a white garland on her, and lovingly said, "I hope to be a part of your life." Suddenly, music erupted, and people surrounded Barış and Füsun, singing and dancing joyfully. Ribbons fluttered above their heads, and colorful pear blossoms filled the air, creating a magical atmosphere that overwhelmed Füsun with happiness. When the music stopped, a banner slowly unfurled with the words, "Will you marry me?" Barış's carefully planned proposal was a complete success, and Füsun was moved to tears of joy. However, when she told her father about the marriage, he firmly opposed it, believing it was too soon and that her studies should take priority. This time, Füsun stood her ground. She wanted to live for herself. Though her father couldn't stop her, he refused to attend the wedding as his final protest. Still, the wedding went ahead as planned, filled with love and blessings from friends and family. Barış and Füsun exchanged heartfelt vows and truly became each other's closest companions. Later that day, under the golden sunset, Barış sang a love song he had written just for Füsun. The melody was tender, and the lyrics deeply touching, moving her to tears. It felt like pure happiness was in the air. Even without her father's presence, their married life was blissful. Every morning, Barış would wake early and quietly watch his wife as she stirred from sleep, cherishing every moment. But at that time, he was unaware that his health was slowly deteriorating. One day, they had a small disagreement about a potted plant on the rooftop. As the daughter of an agricultural engineer, Füsun was sure she was right, but as she defended her view, a sadness overcame her. She hadn't followed her father's wishes and had married Barış instead. Sensing her distress, the ever-attentive Barış quietly went to her father's house without telling her. He entered and went straight to the kitchen to wash the dishes. Even though her father was angry, even threatening to call the police on him for trespassing, Barış remained calm and respectful. In the end, his sincerity softened the father's heart, and he began to accept the man his daughter had chosen. When Füsun returned home and saw Barış calmly having tea with her father, she was taken by surprise but instantly understood. Her father had finally forgiven her. They embraced tightly in a moment of emotional reconciliation. Despite Barış's unique charm that could win over anyone, he couldn't save himself. Though he took his medication regularly, his condition silently worsened. During an important company investment meeting, a client's mild objection to Barış's pricing unexpectedly triggered an intense emotional outburst. He became agitated, cursed in front of everyone, and stormed out in anger. Once the moment passed, Barış was overcome with deep regret and self-reproach. Staring at his reflection in the mirror, he felt like a stranger to himself. Hoping to calm down, he went home intending to rest, but upon reaching the rooftop, he discovered a bird dead in its cage. Guilt and unease overwhelmed him. It was the very bird Füsun had entrusted him with earlier that morning. Due to his negligence, the bird had died in the scorching sun. At that moment, all his suppressed emotions exploded. He began violently destroying things around him, feeling unworthy. If he couldn't care for something so small, how could he protect his beloved wife? Seeing his distress and erratic behavior, their friend Haydar gently suggested he should visit the hospital for a checkup. Unexpectedly, Barış reacted with violence, brutally attacking Hadar. As Hadar lay on the floor, bleeding from his mouth, Barış was instantly filled with unbearable regret. He rushed after Haydar, desperate to explain himself and seek forgiveness. In doing so, he finally confessed the truth. He was suffering from bipolar disorder. The revelation left Haydar in complete shock. He now believed that Füsun needed to know the truth too. However, Barış begged Haydar not to tell Füsun about his condition, not wanting her to worry. But Barış, whose mental state was deteriorating rapidly, was no longer the person he used to be. The side effects of his medication made him increasingly withdrawn and silent, leading Füsun to mistakenly suspect that he was having an affair. Hurt and confused, Füsun confronted him, but Barış chose to stay quiet, brushing off the accusations in an effort to protect the woman he loved from worry and pain. Eventually, Barış made the difficult decision to stop taking the medication altogether. Haydar was deeply concerned about this choice, but Barış, who cherished Füsun above all, couldn't stand the idea of her suffering, not even emotionally. One day, in an effort to lift the mood and reconnect, Barış decided to take Füsun for a drive, hoping for a romantic moment together. But once on the motorcycle, Barış lost control. Gripping the throttle harder, the bike surged forward like an arrow, speeding recklessly through tunnels and traffic. Füsun, terrified, pleaded with him to slow down, to stop, but Barış was consumed by the rush, the thrill, needing to feel something until the road finally came to an end. When they stopped, Füsun collapsed to the ground, trembling with fear. Looking into her terrified eyes, Barış suddenly realized how much he had lost control. Overwhelmed by guilt, he dropped to his knees in front of Füsun and broke down, loudly confessing everything. Seeing her husband so broken, full of self-reproach and sorrow, Füsun rushed to comfort him. Since that moment, Barış had been haunted by what happened. He couldn't even bear to watch Füsun in pain during a simple tattoo. How could he live with the fact that he had put the love of his life in actual danger? After much soul-searching and emotional turmoil, Barış made a heartbreaking decision. He would end his own life to protect Füsun. Knowing the inevitable pain he would cause, he recorded one final video, hoping to leave no regrets behind. In the days that followed, he created a series of last memories, small moments filled with love and meaning. He took Füsun to a grand party one last time, sang to him a beautiful love song one last time, and even sneaked into the neighbor's orchard to pick sweet peaches, something they had done joyfully in the past. They relived the golden days of their romance, laughing and cherishing every moment. As midnight fell, they lay quietly on the grass, exhausted, staring up at the starlit sky. Barış held Füsun close, whispering his love again and again, words that served as both comfort and silent farewell. When Füsun later left on a business trip with friends, Barış took his final steps alone. He walked to the seaside, where he picked a small yellow and white flower and stared at it for a long time, its beauty reminding him of Füsun. In that moment, Barış knew he would rather die than continue living in a way that might ever cause harm to the one he loved most. The story now returns to the present day, where Füsun is seen waiting by the seaside, day after day, clinging to the hope that one day she might be reunited with Barış. But the weight of waiting grew heavier with each passing day, slowly becoming unbearable. Seeing her in such a miserable state, Haydar finally told her the truth about Barış's condition. The revelation hit her like a wave, leaving her devastated. Overcome with sorrow and guilt, Füsun collapsed into a sea of regret. She blamed herself for never noticing Barış's pain, for overlooking the silent cries for help. Desperate for answers, she remembered the police once mentioning that Barış might have left a note at home. Driven by sudden urgency, she rushed back to their house. As she drove, a flood of memories overwhelmed her. Snapshots of laughter, love, and the tender moments they had shared. Then one detail surfaced in her mind. Barış had once been quietly fiddling with a CD in their room. She suddenly realized that on the day she returned home, her cat had messed up the room. Perhaps that's why she had missed it. That small, seemingly unimportant memory now felt like a vital clue, possibly the key to Barış's final message. She rushed home as fast as he could and began searching frantically. Finally, she found the CD tucked away in a drawer. It was labeled, "My Dear Füsun." Hands trembling, she inserted the disc and played the video. As Barış's face appeared on the screen, Füsun felt her world collapse. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face as Barış poured his heart out in the video, repeatedly professing his deep love for her. He explained that he never wanted his love to bring her pain, and sincerely apologized for his decision to leave. Watching his farewell shattered Füsun. She collapsed in front of the screen, devastated. But no matter how deeply she grieved, the truth remained. Barış was gone, and he had taken her heart with him. In the end, I just want to say it's a beautiful yet tragic romance between two souls, Barış and Füsun, whose love was as intense as it was fragile. It explores how mental illness can silently break even the strongest bonds, how love can become both a healing force and a silent destroyer. Delibal is not just about falling in love. It's about the pain of letting go, the sorrow of not being able to save someone you love, and the haunting weight of memories that linger long after a goodbye. The film also delivers a powerful message. Every relationship must be built on transparency. If you're facing any kind of mental or emotional struggle, it's vital to open up to your loved ones. Talking about it doesn't weaken a relationship, it strengthens the bond. If Barış had allowed himself to be vulnerable and shared his pain with Füsun, she might have helped him find a way through it. Maybe they would have had a different, happier ending. But life doesn't always give us second chances. It reminds us that love is not just about passion. It's about honesty, support, and facing the darkness together. Stay tuned for more heartwarming, beautiful stories like this one. Until next time. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Tap the bell icon so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And as always, if there's a movie you'd like me to explain, just drop the name and its country in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and maybe even feature your suggestion in the next video. Thanks for watching, and see you soon with another heart-touching story.